Hello everyone. Today I'm doing something that I've never done before. I speak in English. So English is not my mother language, so please don't mind me if I speak out something wrong. I'm from Germany and I read a lot in social media the last days that people want our German government and want Angela Merkel. And I can tell you something, you can have her because we don't want her anymore. The reason why I'm telling you this is we now have the second lockdown. It's called lockdown light. It's the same like the first lockdown, but the only difference is that school can stay open or will stay open. So we have no need for this second lockdown because there is no reason for it. I tell you this because I give you some random facts about Germany. So in Germany, there are a little bit over 83 million people. From this 83 million people, nearly 900,000 around die every year. Every year, 900,000 of 83 million people die. They die from heart attacks, they die from strokes, they die from diabetes, they die from accidents, they die from cancer, and so on. Nearly 900,000 people die every year. So I made a checkup and looked what is the difference between 2020 and the years before, and I can tell you there is no difference. I can see when I watch or take a look at the numbers of deaths per week that we've had a huge amount in the first 3 months of 2018. There died so many people, and I didn't realize this until this year, that we've had such a huge flu season. So I was in hospital at the end of January in 2018 with a pneumonia, and I didn't know why. But now I know why, because there were so many deaths this year in 2018 because of the flu. So now we have 2020 and the flu is gone. So I have a little picture for you. I know this is mirrored, but this is 2016, this blue part here, to 2019. So this was not a problem. This was totally normal because it was just the flu. And now we have COVID-19. And this is the death rate of 2020 in this red line. So you can see when we have a heat wave in Germany, more people are dying. This happens every year when you look at the chart of Germany in the past years. So this blue one is totally normal because it was just the flu. And this red line here is called the corona wave. We didn't have a flu wave this year. They tell us that the flu stopped here. Then the flu wave was over and coronavirus came. You can see a pretty normal line. It's nothing special here. It's totally normal. But now we have a second lockdown. It's unbelievable. We have a SARS-CoV-2. And I always say SARS-CoV-2 because the media and the government tells us we have a COVID-19 pandemic. But we don't have a COVID-19 pandemic because COVID-19 is the name for the disease who was detected in November 19. It is a disease. It's an atypical pneumonia. It's the name for this. And it's not the name for a running nose. It's not the name for a pandemic. the virus is called SARS-CoV-2. And that makes me really angry, and I'm really pissed off of it, because if we have a COVID-19 pandemic, nearly 40 million people worldwide who are tested positive for SARS-CoV-2 would be in hospital. And if you're positive for SARS-CoV-2, and the media says and the government says that is COVID-19 is the same, then those 40 million people worldwide would be in hospital or would be dead, which is not true. In Germany, we have now a little bit over 10,000 people who are associated with SARS-CoV-2. But most of them didn't have had COVID-19, because in 2020, you don't die from cancer anymore when you are tested positive for SARS-CoV-2 after your death. So you died from COVID-19. When you've had a bad accident and you need an operation and you get in the hospital for that, and you're tested positive for SARS-CoV-2 and you die during this operation, or you die a few days later, you die from COVID-19 and not from your accident. When you made a suicide, and this happens a lot worldwide this year, you can check this out, and you are tested positive for SARS-CoV-2, you died from COVID-19. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is not the truth. When I die one day, it can be tomorrow too. I can die tomorrow. I can have a bad car accident and can die. So when I now test, and I will test positive for SARS-CoV-2, I die from COVID-19. And I don't have COVID-19. I'm completely healthy. So this is the first thing what really pisses me off. So the next thing I want to ask you, this disease is detected in 2019. So there were nearly 8 weeks between the detection of this virus and the tests at the end of January. So what the hell was going on in those 8 weeks between detecting and testing? That's a huge time between this. Did you really think that this virus made vacation in Wuhan and just started to go around the world at the end of January? I don't think so. Because when it was there in November in Wuhan, it was there in November around the world. Was there a difference between those 8 weeks and now? I don't think so. I think you say no. I think you say, no, there was not a difference. We've had the normal flu season. We have had the normal patients with cancer who died at the normal rate of heart attacks, the normal rate of strokes. I think it's all the same. And it was the same here in Germany. There was no difference in those 8 weeks till the test came out. The test came out at the end of January 2020. So, and with this test, the pandemic started. And I can say you another facts. So I have another example for you, because everybody's talking about the United States, because one media says, oh, pandemic is out of control in the United States, and some other media says it's totally normal in the United States. So I looked at the site of the CDC and have now the difference between 2018, because 2019 isn't online till now, and 2020. So we take those both years. So in 2018, I have to tell first that the United States have about over 320 million people. 320 million people live in the United States. So in 2018, over 2.8 million people died. That was normal. They died. Over 2.8 million people. So from this 2.8 million people, over 650,000 people died from a heart disease. Over 600,000 people died from cancer. Over 150,000 people died from strokes. 85,000 people died from diabetes, and so on and so on. You can see it at the side of the CDC. That are facts. They are open to everyone. Everybody can read this. Everybody can see this. It's not a closed case. Everybody can watch at the datas. Datas? Is this right? So in 2018, 2.8 people died. Over 2.8 people died. So now we have 2020. And the last chart I saw was at the beginning of October, I think so. And it was the CDC too. So till October, 2.2 million people died in the United States. So I remember in 2018, the whole year, over 2.8 million people died. Now we have 2020, and till October, 2.2 million people died in the United States. So from this 2.2 million people, 200,000 are associated with SARS-CoV-2. Just when they are tested positive or had symptoms like a pneumonia or stuff like that. So 2.2 million people died till October, and 2.8 million people died in 2018. So we still have, I say, 3 months to go. And I can say, and I can see from this chart that there is just a little difference between those years. So when I cannot explain, or I cannot tell you what will happen the next 2 months of 2020, but I can see that we have a lot of problems with our other diseases worldwide. It's the same in Germany. So I remember nearly 900,000 people die every year in Germany. And now we have 10,000 who are associated with SARS-CoV-2. And 700,000 were death from the other diseases we have, or just because they are old and die. So what about the rest of those people who died from strokes, who died from cancer, who died from heart diseases? Are they not worth to talk about? Why we are so fixed to SARS-CoV-2? In Germany, it was so that during the first 2 weeks of the first lockdown, more people died because we've had 40% less people who went to the hospital with heart attacks and strokes. 40% less than the weeks before and the weeks after the lockdown. And that's the only time where a little bit more people died this year. So I ask you, have you ever checked out how many people are dying in your country every year? How high is the death rate in your country? Have you ever checked this out? And why the hell, and I tell you that you have to ask your government, you have to ask your hosts from the media, why the hell are they telling us we have a COVID-19 pandemic when the virus is called SARS-CoV-2? So I remember that every 40 million people who are tested right now positive for SARS-CoV-2 should have COVID-19 if we have a COVID-19 pandemic. And I want to tell you something. This week was really funny because, you know, Germany is very big in football, soccer. I don't know the word in English. So there were some suckers who are tested positive. And they said, no, we want another test. So they tested positive in one lab and get another test in another lab. And now I ask you what the results are. Right, they were negative. Then another lab got in the news this week because 58 of 60 tests were false positive. I think this is a huge number. When over 90% of the tests are false positive, I can't believe that the other test results, and we have now over 300,000 tests done in Germany, are right positive. Because I found out that in April this year, the WHO got the order out to test positive for SARS-CoV-2, even SARS-CoV-2 isn't detected, because we have two genes in this PCR where you have the E gene, who is in all coronaviruses. So we have 5 coronaviruses who are there every season. Also 4 before, and now SARS-CoV-2 is the 5th. So the E gene is detected in all 5 coronaviruses. But you don't have the ORF1 gene in the other coronaviruses, just in SARS-CoV-2. So when they test or said they had the E gene, this lab got the order to put it out as a positive result for SARS-CoV-2 without the detection of the ORF1 gene. Is this fair? No, I don't think so. I think test results should be right and not false true. So this really pisses me off, and I'm so angry about everything what is going on right now in the world. We have no need for a second lockdown here in Germany. So more and more the media wakes up. More and more information comes out. Now the WHO says that SARS-CoV-2 is not more harmful than the normal flu. And this is really funny because that's what all those COVIDiots says the whole year. That coronaviruses are always there. Coronaviruses are not away. We still have the pig flu. Did you know this? The coronavirus for the pig flu is still there. It's not away. And it's 12 years later. 12 years later after the pig flu, it's still there. So what do you think will happen with SARS-CoV-2? It will be there in 12 years. It will be there. And I can tell you this. So we don't need a vaccine for this. Because I can tell you that there are still, the courts are still trying to find out what was happening in 2008 and 2009 with the vaccine. Still, they're still working on it. It's 12 years later. 12 years later, we still have this coronavirus. And SARS-CoV-2 will stay here for the next, I don't know how long it will stay here. but it will stay here on Mother Earth. So I just can tell you, check the random facts about your country. Check out how many people are dying every year in your country. Check out how many people die from the different diseases every year from your country. What was going on during the lockdowns in your country? How many people died during the lockdown? Died from strokes? Died from cancer? How many people will die from cancer because their medical treatment was or couldn't be done because the hospitals have to stay empty for COVID-19 patients? Think about it. And I think that we have a huge problem, but it's not SARS-CoV-2. It's the government and it's the media here in Germany. Stay healthy.